How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the homestead. It's a pretty chilly Monday morning. It's actually the Monday after Easter, so I hope everyone had a good holiday. And I'm pretty glad I haven't planted the garden yet because we had a really hard frost last night. But speaking of the garden, we're going to be churning up the soil, getting ready to plant within the next couple weeks or so. And we're also going to be making a couple raised beds out of some logs. And my plan is to drive some scrap rebar through the logs in order to make like wall sections, and then tie all the wall sections together with some L brackets. It should basically be free besides the L brackets, and it should give us a really nice place to plant some veggies. That's the hope, at least. I went through my wood lot and I found these 5 trees that were really straight, so I cut them up to about 10 feet long, which is how big I want the bed to be lengthwise. We still need to cut the shorter sections, but I think this is all we need to build the 2 long sides. I mean, you could take a look at this guy here. That's probably big enough to be 1/2 of one of the sides right there. So we just need to cut up the shorter sections and then we could go assemble this guy. Now that all the pieces are cut, we're going to cut the rebar and start figuring out which logs go together. Similar to a puzzle, some logs seem to go better together than others, so we're going to have to figure that out before we start driving the rebar in. But we're going to do all that tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Well, I just got this year's box of seed potatoes, and as you guys can probably tell, the hopes are high for this year's potato garden. Out here bright and early, and I think I could give you a really good example of what I mean by certain logs fitting the different logs instead of others. So if you take a look at this big one that's laying down here, it may not look like it, but there's actually a bit of a bow to it. Now the one that's laying next to it is pretty flat. It's not perfect, obviously, but it's pretty flat. Now the third one right here has a really serious bow to it. So what we're going to do is put that one on top of that one to hopefully match the bow a little bit. That's the theory. I still need to cut out this knot, but after I do that, it should fit just fine. And we're going to use the length of the drill bit to figure out where those first holes are going in all the logs. So hopefully we could get these ends to line up. After that, we're going to place them, not totally sure where, probably one in the center and another one on the end for these longer pieces. But I'm going to drive the first piece of rebar through that first hole to line up that end and hopefully that end before I start drilling the other holes. It just makes life a lot easier. So I did saw out that middle section where it was just way too fat, but you can see that that log is setting on top of there without any supports. Rebar is not through it yet, so that's a perfect example of 2 logs that fit well together. So that's the way that they're going to go. So all of the first holes are drilled in the longer logs, and we're going to start working on the shorter ones, but I had an idea for the chicken wire that's going to go underneath. We had some gophers annihilate our garden last year, so my hope is that we could line the bottom with that chicken wire to prevent them from getting in. But my idea to make this a lot easier and a lot simpler than it has to be, stretch and roll that out and stake it down with a couple tent stakes, then put the logs on top, remove the tent stakes, yada yada. Let's see how it goes. So you see what I did there? I have 3 tent stakes that are holding down the end of the chicken wire, and then I just rolled it out, put more tent stakes on that end, and then replace the logs where they were. So when I take out those tent stakes and trim up the chicken wire, it's not going to roll up or do anything, so it should stay solid.
When I do not know, say when I cannot hear, do when I do not know, and leave me alone. Were you ever at home at night alone, with no one to call you on the telephone? I get tired of hanging round this doggone town when the one I love is gone and let me down. Go where you wanna go, say what you
Okay, so all the first holes are drilled in all the sections. I'm not too sure if I want to drill the second holes before I pound the rebar in or not. So we're gonna just drive one of the sides in, one of the short sides first, see how it works, see how it goes, and then possibly do that to the larger ones today. If it doesn't seem like it's gonna go all that well, we'll just figure something else out. So before we go down there and start trying to drive this sucker, I just wanted to show you guys the end on this is pretty well rounded. I spent some time the other day taking a whole bunch of pieces of rebar, cutting them to length, as well as rounding off the ends, so hopefully they drive in a little bit easier. We'll see. Another thing that I might end up trying is getting some cheap soap like Irish Spring or something and rubbing that on the rebar before I drive it through. I think that might also lube it up a little bit and let it drive in a little easier. Alright, hopefully you guys can see this alright. I did bring out a little bit of cutting oil. It's not ideal, but I'm sure it'll lube this just fine. I drove it through the first log just fine. Once it got about 2 inches past or 2 inches out, I put it into the next hole, pounded on the log a little bit, and then now we're driving it through the next log. Let's see how this goes. Before I get any comments, the reason I'm taking such small swings, I don't want to bend this rebar and not be able to get it out of these logs. I spend a lot of time cutting these and prepping them, so I don't want to hear it in the comments. Beauty. Drove a little too far, actually. So that's going to be one thing to note. Make sure I don't drive it too far because it'll be too difficult to tip back up with those larger pieces. But this is going fine. Okay. I actually think we are all the way through since I can't really tip it over. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the next hole and I'm going to start at the top, and just each time I pass through I'm going to push the log out of the way now that we have this pivot point. That's my hope. First wall done, baby. That was honestly a lot easier than I expected, and this wall is really solid, so that's awesome to see. You could also see that I drove the rebar as deep as I could get it. That way, no sharp edges, no one can get hurt with it. We're good to go. Hopefully we could get the next walls done probably tomorrow. Just kidding, I had to finish the matching side, and I'll tell you what, it is once again very sturdy, and for those of you curious as to why, I cut the rebar pieces a little bit extra long. That way they have to drive about a foot into the soil. Just gives it that little extra support. Well guys, when life gives you an opportunity, you can't pass it up. And that's why when I got an opportunity to have this loaned to me, I knew exactly what we were gonna do. So this is the side of my shop that gets full sun during the summer. So I figured we'd take that rototiller and till up all this section right along this wall and plant some corn there. I've never planted corn, I have no experience growing corn, but I think it would be a great opportunity. And we have more than enough space to put multiple rows here. And typically you don't want to till your soil year after year in the same garden bed, but as you guys will see, it's not like it's bad soil, but it's definitely a little bit tough. It's never really been worked, so going through with this is going to be a very nice time saver.
All right, let's see how this bad boy goes.
And just like that, about 15, maybe 20 minutes on the high end, we're done. And check out this beautiful soil. That's what I wanted to get to. That's what I wanted to dig up. Now I still need to go through here a couple times, and I still need to rake through to get the root balls and whatnot out, but that is a lot of work and not too much time. Very happy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna wrap this video up. I don't have too much more to show you. I'm just gonna keep on tilling today. In the next video, we are gonna finish up that garden bed, and we might even plant. So if you're interested in seeing that, make sure you subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and share the video with someone you think also might enjoy it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments down below. And with that, thank you for watching. Think for yourself, shoot straight, and I will see you next time.